Hi, everybody, and welcome to Week 4 of the Community Super League. I'm Megan of Magic the Amateuring, and I'm joined by my podcast co-host, Maria, and we are joined by the girlfriend bracket host, Erin. What's up, Erin?
Hey, I can't wait to see you guys next weekend.
I know, GP Minneapolis, everybody.
We're so excited.
Yeah.
We barely ever get people to come to Minneapolis. It's not close to anything.
As someone who's from Milwaukee, I can relate to that. You know, you try to entice people like, I've got a couch in Milwaukee, and people are like, pass.
Exactly. Like, oh, that's close to Chicago, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Sure.
it is.
Yeah.
Even in our case, we don't get that. We're nearby
Canada.
Canada.
Yep.
That's very true.
Yep. That's our nearest city, Canada.
Oh,
So this week on the Community Super League, we have a Brewers Challenge.
Brewers Challenge.
We are making all of our competitors become virtual witches.
Yes.
And take a card from Standard and brew around that card, which they must have 4 copies of.
This is, maybe you want to be paying close attention to this as well, because GP Minneapolis, maybe you want to take one of these decks there. Who knows? Maybe there's a secret all-star in this pile. I don't know. Maybe they're not just piles of jank.
I think that the term that you're looking for is piles of enthusiasm.
Yeah. That's exactly it. So everybody who's a part of the Community Super League chose a different card to build around in Standard, and we've got just a great range of different cards and decks that we're going to see this week on Community Super League.
I know we had a ton of fun. Erin, how did the building process go for you all?
We were actually really excited for this challenge. You know, we've kind of struggled the past couple of weeks with just trying to, kind of gauge what we're supposed to do. You know, after the Pro Tour Gauntlet, we showed up with a very spiky deck and then lost to a fun casual deck. And so last week we were like, okay, we're going to have fun this week. We purposely avoided a spiky or horror build. And then we lost to Wedge in a very infinite combo. And so we're like, so we tried, we just kind of found ourselves on the wrong side of the coin. But this week it's like we knew what we wanted to do. We felt like the goal was a lot more, or the point was a lot clearer. And so we put our faith in the frog, we put our faith in the Gitrog, and we're hoping they will carry us to victory.
No matter who you have to throw by the wayside while you do it.
So true.
I'm particularly proud of our title. Our title has a lot of like little inside jokes to it.
Yeah, can we take a look at the matchups this week that we're going to see for the Brewers Challenge? Here you can see the first match, which we'll be commentating. We've got Kenji with his deck Dear Diary, built around Tamiyo's Journal. If you've seen him streaming at all recently, you know that this deck is actually really cool. I've been loving watching it. Versus Is It Brains from Loading Ready Run, built around Brain in a Jar. What else? What else would Loading Ready Run pick, really? But then your deck's name, which you just alluded to, A Box of Frogs. Tell me, how did you come up with that?
So there's actually a phrase called mad as a box of frogs, which implies delirium or insanity. And we thought since the card that we're building on is a frog, and we're also riding the delirium theme really hard, we thought that was a neat sort of play on words there. We're kind of going, and we're also going for a Golgari toolbox deck. So box of frogs, toolbox. We have a lot of one-ofs. We have some tutoring going on. Frogs, mad. We're mad we haven't won, so mad as a box of frogs. So there's just a lot going on with that title, and it just kind of, we were like, we could do the frog prince, we could do, kissing frogs, toadstool, things like that. And, when I found Mad as a Box of Frogs, I was like, we need to do this. And so that's what we came up with.
I have never in my life heard that phrase.
I actually heard it from one of my friends in England, actually. She said it once to me, and I was like, what? And then
in a British accent, it's even worse.
Exactly, yeah. Mad as a box of frogs. And I was just like, what? And then it was just so nuts, we had to use it.
To be fair, the British get to say anything as like a phrase.
As Tim Willoughby would say, it's naughty.
It's very naughty. It sounds like something you would say in Georgia, I think. I'm mad as a box of frogs at you, Jimmy. You should have cleaned out the pool.
You have some really interesting ideas about the South.
It's hot. They need pools. Rich South people.
I feel like I'm recording with Evan Irwin when you talk like that. Just.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the video that sets up this week's Community Super League so you can learn a little bit more about who chose what deck and the idea behind the challenge.
Welcome to Week 4 of the Community Super League. This week, our players are taking on the Brewers Challenge. The week started with a round of nominations via Twitter, looking for the most exciting build-around cards currently in Standard. After a vote to whittle the list down to 14, the players drafted in reverse standings order. What we ended up with was 10 spicy brews like you've never quite seen before. You won't want to miss this week of explosive decks and goofy combos. If you like this week's theme, check out the series Against the Odds on YouTube. Saffron Olive builds wacky decks based off of viewer suggestions on a weekly basis. You can find this series and similar content at youtube.com/c/mtgo goldfish.
So an exciting week here in the Community Super League.
Absolutely. I didn't realize, but what I actually should have said is that we're making everybody be Bob Rosses.
Yeah, we really are.
Just we're really asking everybody to ascend to a new level of artistry this week.
I agree, Megan. Great parallel. Great parallel. We all are donning our own fros and wide open 70s shirts.
Exactly.
I mean, I brought my fro. I always bring my fro.
I personally brought a son named Steve.
Yeah.
Who's going to be taking over for me partway through.
Megan and I did watch the marathon of The Joy of Painting on Twitch earlier this year when they had every Bob Ross episode. And when his son Steve came on, man, chat went wild.
They really did.
So let's take a look at the first matchup we're going to see tonight. Let's take a look at Kenji's deck that I alluded to before, which I think is so cool. What do you think of this deck, Erin?
I really like this, the idea. So when, we get the deck list a little bit ahead of this, some behind the scenes dirt, and we're told to kind of go over it. And Randy specifically noted to look for the win condition. And I was like, well, if I have to look for it, that's... And then when I saw the deck, I was like, oh, because as I'm going down the list, I'm like, where's the win? Oh, the one copy of Gear Report Ethergrid. And I was just like, oh, this is going to be good. And then everything that Kenji is able to do either creates clues or creates more clues. And I believe the goal is to tutor, use Tamio's Journal to get Gear Report Ethergrid, then tap all of those clues and win that way. And that's a really dynamic way to win the game.
I personally am most excited. I know that the deck is built around Tamio's Journal, but I want to see how many extra clues Second Harvest can make.
I've seen him on stream make, I think, 10 extra clues with Second Harvest. It was ridiculous.
Erin, if you had to go ahead, let's each go around and make a guess. Top number of clues that Kenji will have on board during this match.
Ooh, great question. Great question. I'm gonna say the max number of clues he'll have in any given game is gonna be I'll say 15.
All right, 15 is Maria's bet. Erin,
I want to go over the top. I'm not gonna think small here. I'm gonna say 25.
25.
Okay.
You guys, for some reason, I'm having the number appeared to me, and the number is 32.
Okay,
I'm gonna go ahead.
Write it down.
I'm going all out. I believe in you, Kenji, and your ability to make clues.
Please, chat, make your own guesses, and afterwards, police yourselves and find out who was the most correct amongst you. In case you don't know, Tamio's Journal, what it says, at the beginning of your upkeep, investigate. This card costs 5. It's legendary, so there can be only one. You can tap it, sacrifice 3 clues, search your library for a card, and put that card into your hand. Then shuffle your library. In the win condition, Gear per Aethergrid, it's 2 and a red. Tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So it could be a really fun, neat win condition. There's also 3 copies of Uvenwald Mysteries in there, which can make some humans when you sacrifice clues. So very synergistic. I heard Kenji say that every card in the deck synergizes with Tamio's Journal, which I think is really cool.
Can we talk about that sideboard, though?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the sideboard is a mix of all of the cards that were possible, or most of the cards that were possible in the draft. So, for example, we are playing, you guys are playing Alhammar's Archive, LRR is playing Brain in a Jar, Zada Hedron Grinder, Startled Awake. These are all cards that you're going to see tonight be the focus of other people's decks. And that's a really neat nod to Tamio's Journal, opening the journal and seeing all of the cards that, is being observed. It's a big flavor win right there.
Yeah, I agree. And keep the flavor in mind, too, when you see these decks, because you out there in the audience can vote. You can give Brewmaster points to the decks you thought were the most awesome tonight. Use your own criteria for what you want awesome to mean. You know, were they most powerful? Were they just the coolest? Did they go off in unique ways? A strange win condition? A story, if you like the story of the deck? Anything you choose, CommunitySuperLeague.com, you can vote for which decks you think the players did the best job building.
Did they feature our favorite card, which is a ghost being walked by a lantern? Third Wall Illuminator.
It's pretty cute.
That lantern's
running
just
4
taking
of
its
those.
ghost.
Yes, he is. All right, let's take a look at Loading Ready Run's deck list. Is it brains?
Is it?
Is it? Is it brains? It's not a question.
Is it?
Okay. Are we doing who's on first here? So this deck is built all around playing instants and sorceries, and then using Rise from the Tides, putting 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm actually favoring LRR in this matchup. I think that they're more of a control list. You'll notice that LRR has no creatures in the main, so they are the control deck here. They're basically going to be trying to stop Kenji. A lot of Kenji's tokens come from creatures, and the synergies that come from that. And so if LRR can simply keep him off of that plan while advancing their own, I think that they're actually in the favored position here.
I agree. And I think I'm personally very interested or excited to see them potentially copy a Rise from the Tides with a Geist Blast.
Ooh, that would be cool.
So I really like that both of these decks have not only put in the card that they're building around and built around it in really flavorful ways, but there's also so many other unique ways that these decks interact.
Well, you were asking how many clues we think Kenji's going to cap out at. We should take a wager on how many zombies we think LRR is going to max out on, because that can get out of hand.
Perfect. Let's see. I'll go ahead since I got to make my guess last time. I'll go ahead and make it first this time. I think, are we talking about one copy of Rise from the Tides, or like?
Well, I mean, how many
at
zombies
once?
are they going to have?
Like max number of zombies on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Do you know what? I'm going to double down on the number 32.
That seems so impossible. If they do that, it'll be the greatest day in Magic's history. Hands down. I'm going to guess... Should I? I'm not going to guess... I'm going to guess... Oh, gosh. 8. I'm going really low.
All right.
I'm going to go 12. 12 is speaking to me here.
Is this Price is Right closest without going over, or what? Can you go
that
over?
really doesn't favor me at all. So if you're asking me, I'm not going to say that we're using prices right.
Okay, fine. Let me just quickly read Brain in a Jar for everybody who's unaware. It costs 2. 1, and tap Brain in a Jar, put a charge counter on it. Then you may cast an instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Brain in a Jar from your hand without paying its mana cost. 3, tap, remove X charge counters from Brain in a Jar, scry X. So they have a way to pay for their spells. Basically, they cast their spells for free, as well as scry to find what they really want, which maybe, of course, Rise from the Tides. They also have a Fall of the Titans in there. So they could do massive amounts of damage, especially since they are also running Mage Ring Network, which is capable of creating just a bunch of mana.
Yep, and again, they also have that Geist Blast, which could potentially copy a Fall of the Titans. If they
it's also interesting to note that Kenji doesn't seem to have a lot of answers to just answers in general. Like, Kenji's on a very proactive list, so it's like Kenji doesn't really have any way to deal with Brain in the Jar. So Brain in the Jar is probably not going to go anywhere. And if they do manage to get Brain in a Jar and Rise and a bunch of zombies in play, Kenji again does not have any real way to deal with that either. So I think LRR is going to do a really good job of keeping Kenji on his toes this game.
After sideboard, Kenji does have 2 copies of Root Out, which can destroy an artifact or an enchantment. And of course, he is a little bit more likely than a normal 60-card deck to be able to find them, since he does have Tamio's Journal. But with 4 copies of Brain in a Jar in LLR's main deck, it may not do it to just have only those 2 copies.
Yeah. All right, we are ready to see our first match of Community Super League this week, Kenji versus Loading Ready Run.